Hey everyone, what's up? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to The Right Mindset. Today I'm going to go over the value of plots and subplots and their differences to give your stories the right amount of push they need to ground your vision. And of course, we're going to discuss it a little bit. So let's get right to it, shall we? That's some grooving music right there. A big massive thanks to everyone who's listening to these videos, who have subscribed to the channel, and really have been supporting what we're doing here, or more importantly, that we're trying to add value to the community for inspiring or aspiring writers, and of course current writers and people in the writing community that are looking to learn more about their craft. And of course, there's going to be interviews with people and other stuff as we continue to build this channel with the content about the writing world. So with that said, if you're new here and you are a beginner writer, or you've been writing and you're a well created author with one book or several books, or even screenwriters, click that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you don't miss out on content. I'm just saying, let's try to get on track to get the right mindset. All right. So, what are plots and subplots? See, this is the thing. In simple terms, a plot is a sequence of connected events that are bound together by cause and effect. The subplot is a side story that exists within the main plot. The subplot is connected to the main story, but never overpowers it. And of course, the subplot can splinter off and describe events that take place outside the main story. However, the subplot's purpose is to strengthen the main storyline in some ways. I've talked about this in other videos. J.R.R. Tolkien masterfully employs the subplots in his fantasy novels. Why? Because he loves to expand on the lore of the world for his world building, and he does that through his subplots. He lets characters split off and go do what they got to do. For example, I think I've mentioned this before. His main story follows Frodo, and while he's going to Mount Doom in Mordor, he wants to destroy the ring. However, you got Merry and Pippin and Gandalf and Aragorn and all those other people in there fighting other forces, and they're going this way, and other people going that way. And basically, we're learning about the world as Frodo and Samwise Gamgee, and at one point, Gollum, right? Gollum. How do you do that voice? Gollum. Oh, there it is, Gollum. You're precious. Imagine I did the whole first the subplots. Anyway, so everybody's doing their thing, but Frodo is the main plot, and then Aragorn going to eventually get the armies and come back and save his original kingdom is a subplot, and then Merry and Gandalf the Grey turning into Gandalf the White, and that whole thing is a subplot, and even Gandalf going off at a certain point to go to the tower to meet up with Sauron. Sauron. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. It's been forever since I've read that book. Why wouldn't I know that though? I should know that. I'm into fantasy novels. Bad Thomas. But the whole world gets expanded upon. However, we are emotionally invested in Frodo's story, and Frodo gets a lot of the main attention. However, those subplots are influencing the main plot line. They're adding value to it. They're building armies. They're fighting against the forces of Mordor. And and Frodo's like, no, I got to destroy this ring. So there's a lot of things. So, but although some of these characters in the Lord of the Rings do succumb to like the evil, or they're like, the ring took me over. The subplots as a whole reinforce the theme that good ultimately triumphs over evil in Lord of the Rings. That's really some of the themes: is good shall triumph over the evil. Second, the subplots help to create a sense of space. So we could have just gotten to the point and go, if I take one more step, Frodo, this will be the furthest I have ever gone from the Shire. Right? And then he takes another step. If I take one more, Frodo's like, come on, let's just go. But if we just followed that path, we would have seen their world, their perspective, and we wouldn't have necessarily seen the world of everything that takes place in Lord of the Rings. So think of your subplots as a way to help create a sense of space, where things are, how far things are. Especially if they're like, hey, we have to go get the MacGuffin. It's 3 months that way. And the main storyline is like, all right, well, we're going to keep going this way. We'll meet up in 3 months at that one location. And then they're like, all right. And then you're like, oh, they made it to the MacGuffin 3 months of, so like you create time and space and movement by allowing those main plots and subplots to kind of work together. So the reader is able, by having this sense of space, the reader is able to explore the various settings of, in the case of Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, because the subplots show a different location. And by a different location, I mean multiple locations, and not just what Frodo and Sam, it's Gamgee, is experiencing. So subplots really do serve as world builders, but that doesn't mean your main plot can't build on the world, especially the way I like to write. And again, it's just my way, it's not necessarily the way, but I have heard other writers talk about this, especially on YouTube, and a lot of my writer friends, they like to explore the world through the character's necessities. Basically, the plot and the character work together to discover the world, not necessarily the other way around, where the world is discovered just because we feel you need to know the history of this tree, but the tree has nothing to do with the plot or subplot or even the main character, and that automatically really does some damage. So but that brings us to, why are subplots important in the first place? So let's explore subplots and how they add complexity to your story. So if you have a basic story but without subplots, it's just a basic point A to point B kind of story. There might be like little beats in there that kind of pace your story out, but it's still like, this needs to happen, so everything we're doing is leading to that happen. But subplots allow you to explore different elements and sides of the protagonist, the antagonist, and the world in which they live. If a protagonist is trying to, let's say, get the job they always wanted, however, a subplot, which is usually a subplot in a lot of Hollywood movies, they find a love interest, right? But the way they're going after their job versus the way they're pursuing the love interest, it brings a different side to the protagonist, because we're not going to pursue a love interest the same way we're going to pursue a job opportunity. And the love interest the subplot to the love interest should directly influence the main storyline. Either their relationship inspires them to do better, or they learn something that helps them get the job, or it goes the other way around. The love interest becomes an issue where they don't really put in the time to their career, and the career falters for it. Whatever the case may be, we're seeing different sides, and that's the value of a subplot. And this also includes the central themes, so that you can weave a richer tale. Basically, by adding those subplots, you're expanding on the themes, and even though the main plot, you want to kind of hit those themes, you can do so much more if you just add some secondary aspects to it. Otherwise, your story will read uh, have a very simplistic read to it, and that might not be what you're looking to do, because subplots add meat to your story, right? Unless you're a vegan, then it adds broccoli. But every novelist wants a robust, hearty tale. Who doesn't? But there's only so much you can say about the main storyline without falling into filler territory. Or, I've read books where, characters are just like, they're heading somewhere and they get to a town, and then like the narration of the book is really going on about this town, and the town was created in 100 years ago, and there was a war, but meanwhile the war has none, and you're just like, okay, I get it. But let's be honest, Lord of the Rings could have been shorter if it just followed Frodo to Mordor. But again, like what makes it spellbinding? There's a lot of pages. It's an epic, but the presence of subplots really make that story interesting. Like, do that as an experiment, and then tell me in the comments below. Take out every aspect of Lord of the Rings except for and only Frodo's story of getting the ring and going to Mordor and throwing the ring in there. That means we can't do any side quests. The story is anything that is influential to the main plot line, which means also not doing the birthday celebration of Bilbo Baggins. It's just Frodo getting the ring, and or being told about the ring and to hold the ring, and then we can't watch Gandalf go off. We just here, watch the ring, and then the next moment is him coming back and going, the ring. Tell me if you enjoy that story. I'm kind of enjoying it now that I'm thinking about it in my head, just the humor of it. But anyway, likewise, your main story could probably be wrapped up with like 10 pages or less, but meaty subplots, they will stretch the story out into hundreds of pages without feeling like filler. And that's the thing about subplots. They aren't exposition. They aren't just like things need to happen, which is something that I complain about a lot in stories, movies, especially when you're like watching and they're like, a lot is going on, like a lot is happening, but nothing is happening. And that usually happens with where it's just exposition or just characters doing stuff because it looks cool. But anyway, which brings me to subplots. Moderate the pace of your story. You can take your reader on a never-ending roller coaster ride, which it happens. But not only is that bad for the pace of the story, it's pretty much impossible to do over the span of 200 pages. You have to have breaks. You have to. The brain needs to kind of accept and absorb information, and then to be able to move forward. So by switching it up, it actually helps. In fact, it's the reason editing videos and movies have those cuts. Those edited cuts help with being able to watch the video. So that's something you should know about. It helps with the audience retention, and also it could play on tension or the pacing in general. And it's just another great way to incorporate the subplots to help add some value and other elements to your story. If you're dealing with a particularly dark part of your plot, you can inject a lighter subplot that eases the tension and gives the reader breathing space. So think about how can you use your subplots, and that's just another way you can do that. Which brings us to subplots push the story forward. I don't know if you know that. That's right. Subplot should also move the story forward in some small but deliberate way. It shouldn't just be like something happened, because then we fall into a lot of stuff is happening, but nothing is happening. Every aspect of a story should follow the rule. Everything that happens must affect everything that happens. For example, if a character finds a phone on a bench and then we never hear about that phone again, why do we need to know about the phone, right? Phones are important because it was brought up. They found the phone. So what is the phone about? And that might become a subplot, though. Like the phone is a subplot, but how does it influence the main story? Maybe it turns out to be whatever. It could be the inciting incident. You don't know, but it's also like, let's discover who left that. Even though it was the inciting incident was finding the phone, and they're trying to discover who left the phone, but it turns into a whole other thing. So like, there's two things going on. It's like, who planted the phone, but the information that was on the phone that led to this something different. So you could play around with that. You could also use the subplot to develop the character and give something that they might have to do later in the story. So, but the thing about subplots, they give the reader a global view. And again, use these subplots to keep the reader informed about the other characters in your story. If you're using third person multiple or omniscient POV, you can follow various character stories that run parallel to the main storyline. Think Game of Thrones. Every chapter is almost a new character. So that's a value that you want to do, is allow the reader to see the main plot line through other characters or through subplots, and allow yourself to add some value and stuff like that, some extra elements to the story, and it keeps your audience like, ooh, that's interesting. Like, we love as audience members to discover things. We don't like to be told about things, though sometimes it's inevitable. You're gonna have to get some exposition and just be flat out told, we need this phone to stop the villain. But we as audiences love to discover the story. We love to discover information and discover, and it's probably why Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code did so well, is because you can discover the story as you read it. You can be the detective. Anyway, subplots explore the theme. So you need to have a theme in your book, but you don't necessarily have to really sit there and explore the theme before you get the book started. You might be like, the theme of this book is good shall always prevail against evil. And how do we do that? We show different examples of the subplot. You can use subplots to draw out the theme of your novel a little bit more, or your subplots can help the reader connect the dots and see the bigger picture. Me personally, a lot of times my themes are discovered while I'm writing. And then as I discover them, I like to kind of, dig my shoulder into it and go, oh yeah, I could see that, without it becoming obvious, like, these are the themes. Me as a writer, though, my brand is about teamwork, loyalty, having the right people around you, helping society, helping people around you, compassion, being good to one another. Does that mean all my characters are those things? No, but a lot of the themes in the stuff I work on have that. Also, a lot of themes are like fantastical, fantasy, magic, and divinity, and stuff like that. So those themes are there too, like the battle of mortality and divine presence, and but I don't sit there and go, hey, what is my theme for this book? It's just part of my voice touches on those themes, and you could use subplots to do that. It's very helpful. Which brings me to subplots improve characterization. Subplots allow you to show instead of tell. Without subplots, how would you communicate that your character has grown? You can show the progression of a character through the arc of a subplot. You can also show different aspects of the character's personality, including what motivates them to respond in certain ways. Create sympathy for the protagonist or the antagonist through the subplots. This is basically what I said in the beginning. A person is trying to get a job. That's the main plot of the story. They meet a love interest, whatever the case may be, and how they pursue the love interest versus how they pursue the job is going to help with us as an audience discovering their personality, motivations, and things like that. And also, the way that subplot influences the main story will also show us the character in a way that the character might not realize. So, the things we believe in as a person sometimes are challenged when we introduce new people into our circles. And where our convictions stand, they might be swayed, persuaded, or challenged in a way where we change our beliefs to appease certain other people. And that happens, right? So, not all the time, but sometimes. And that's an example of using subplots for that stuff. And finally, well, not finally, but subplots keep the reader invested in the story. Most subplots aren't resolved in one scene. You can weave them throughout the story and set up a subplot and revisit it throughout your novel to keep the reader on the hook. Again, if we're going to use the romantic interest as a subplot, we keep revisiting that. So the main character, the main protagonist, is going to work. When they come out, going to get the job, they come out. They did great at the interview. They treat themselves to go to the bar. While they're at the bar, they meet a love interest. The love interest and the main character hit it off, and there's an exchange of information to contact. But then the main character, the next moment is maybe talking to somebody about how they got the job. They're reflecting on what happens, what's the long-term implications of having gotten this, and what is this going to change? This is going to change everything. And do I have what it takes to make this job work? And then the next thing is they're trying to do the job, and lo and behold, the love interest works as a very as a person at the business. They could either be a CEO, they could be of a different division, they could be working at an umbrella company to that main business, sort of like if you worked at Disney and then Hulu, someone works at Hulu. So all these things could happen, so I'm just saying, now they're revisiting the subplot because now they're like, oh, hey, you're the person that I was like, hey, and we exchanged numbers, and we're revisiting that subplot. But it's not necessarily influencing the main storyline as in like it is the main storyline. But now there's that conflict. Are they a CEO? Do we work at the same company? Is this the right idea? I'm just trying to get my foot in the door, etc., etc., etc. Right? So that's how you really should look at plots and subplots. My final thoughts on this is the plot is the reason you are writing your story. Okay, you have a story idea that is going to be driven by the beginning, middle, and end of that main plot line. A story's inciting incident influences the main plot line. So the thing that happens that disrupts the ordinary world is going to move the main plot forward. I personally like to give a lot of energy to my main plot line while outlining, and then I develop the story from there. Once I have a solid yet malleable main plot line, I will explore the characters. Who are they? What do they want? Where have they come from? And where are they going? From there, I will sprinkle in subplots for some of the other main characters, my protagonists, and yes, the antagonists. I think of the main plot line as a driving force pulling the car, and subplots as the environment where you are driving that car through. So if you're in a car and you're just driving down the highway, where are we going is the main plot. However, we see, the world's largest rubber band ball, and we say to ourselves, hey, let's stop and see the world's largest rubber band ball. And if you get that reference, Michael, right? The movie with John Travolta. He's an angel. He plays the angel Michael. Their main plot is to go from point A to point B, and they're traveling, and then the subplots are, meeting, seeing all these like crazy like wonders of the world, but they're like silly wonders of the world. Anyway, but whatever you choose to do, just remember that both main plots and subplots deserve attention so they do not become filler material, and you like let the plots, all forms of plots, have substance, value, and purpose. If a subplot is just kind of there just because this would be a cool scene, but it's not doing anything other than like character development. But keep in mind, every aspect of every moment a character is choosing to do something or not choosing to do something, that is character development. So to create a scene for character development, that scene might not necessarily be right for your story. It might not be necessary. So think of your main plot and your subplots as something that needs substance, value, and purpose. Everything you do must affect everything you do when it comes to your story. Does that mean it has to overwhelm it? No, it could be a very small element of involvement, something that kind of touches on the outskirts of the main reality of that story. But you don't want, you know, there really needs to be purpose to these things to add value and energy and empathy to the things. So anyway, the next video in this series will give us some insight to the different types of subplots that are commonly used and how to avert expectations of those subplots. So this playlist, we're moving from this plots and subplots to examining different kinds of subplots that will help you work on your story. So my question to you is, what was a main plot or subplot that really pulled you in emotionally and had you turning the pages nonstop? Let me and our community know in the comments below. And if you want to learn more about the craft and a little bit about the business of the writing industry, why don't you please subscribe and press the bell icon so you don't miss out. And of course, maybe you can like, comment, and share the video to help our writing community work, grow, and rise together as a community. So, yeah, if you have questions or there's topics that you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments below. I'm always happy to answer questions. I love questions. Till next time, keep the energy flowing so you can keep growing as you develop the right mindset.